can we be certain that a definition is complete and full? What happens when we acquire, for example, new knowledge for something? This does change the definition of a concept, and yeah.
Yeah, great question. So how can you be certain that you've got the right definition of something? Definitions are difficult because definitions are really the final step in the process of concept formation. So the earlier steps in concept formation consists mostly in asking questions like, what is this thing? How does it relate to other things? What differentiates it from other things? Do we need to make any kind of a concept for this? We can work with justice because it's already on the table. We see that we need to judge people. We don't have a definition of justice right off the bat. They don't come from on high, right? We've got to develop them. But they get developed by observing and integrating based on our needs. So we take justice. We need to judge people, clearly. Got to do that. We need to judge them in light of the fact that they have volition. We need to judge them on the basis of facts, not just, what we feel or what we wish or what we hope or on some other non-relevant factor. So we've got to judge them on the basis of facts. And then once we judge them, we need to treat them accordingly. If you judge somebody as evil but treat him as good, it's going to mess your life up. If you judge someone as good but treat him poorly, that's going to mess your life up. So you need to judge people correctly and then treat them accordingly. And then after you do the work to figure out what are the facts that give rise to the need of justice, then you can say, okay, now how do we essentialize that thought process? Then you can come up with a definition of justice, which would be something like, justice is the virtue of judging people according to the facts and treating them accordingly as they deserve to be treated, or something to that effect. And that's where the definition comes from. Now, definitions are contextual, and you frequently have to form definitions at a certain point so that you can use the idea and know what you're thinking or talking about before you have complete information on something. So definitions can change over time, and they often do, as your thinking becomes more refined. So you don't need the Platonic form of the proper definition in order to think and use ideas. Just because it's also on the table, take the concept of tariff, right? So you can read about tariffs in a book on economics where you can get some, very high level understandings of the history of this method of government taking money in the form of essentially taxation through imports, and it's an indirect tax on the citizens and all of that. Or if you're trying to explain this to a group of high school students or something, you can make it a lot easier and say, look, if you've got a lemonade stand and you want to sell your lemonade to this person over here, but I come in as the government and I say, well, you can't move your lemonade this way unless you give me some money, and then what's going to happen to the price of lemonade if it goes into a secondary market? Like, you can put it in simpler terms, right? So then the way in which I might define tariffs in that context would be context dependent. It would be what's going to work for this group of students versus maybe what will work for a high-level group of economics, college students. So don't get hung up on every definition being some flawlessly perfect definitions. Definitions serve a purpose. They enable us to try to differentiate this thing from that thing by the essentials as far as we know them.